Good day, ma'am. My name is Katime Pasos Lagapa from BSHM2A. And for today's video, I will be reporting the chapter 6, which is Organization for Finance. So, in as much as the primary purpose of the business enterprise is to make profits, the handling of the firm's finances is therefore extremely important. So, money is needed to the start business. So ang kwarta jud is need jud nato kung tukod ta og business. It is needed when the business is in operation, and it is needed when the business is expanding. Capable handling of finance provides money for these three purposes at is needed. So mag-need jud ta og kwarta no kay kwarta is life gyud. Oh my god. Bitaw, let's proceed to the financial function. So the financial function is essentially concerned with the management of monetary affairs, with the raising and expending money. It may not be as dramatic function as manufacturing or sales, but it is equally important, and every often its direct handling is retained by top management. So the chief financial officer may be called vice president for finance or treasurer or comptroller depending on the practice of corporation. So this chief financial officer handles cash, bank relation, credit, and quite often the accounting function. He prepares or helps prepare the cash budget, the annual report to stockholders, and payrolls or confidential payrolls. He reviews contracts involving financial matters and the ownership, sales, or purchase of property. So, in the bigger corporation, there may be with there may be both treasurer and comptroller. In that case, the treasurer handles external finance or finance, while the comptroller handles internal finance. So let's proceed to the treasurer suggests the distribution of profits, the payment of dividends flowing back of earnings into the business, or investment in stock and bonds of other corporations. The treasurer may secure company assets and authorize disbursement. On the other hand, the comptroller would handle the department of taking care of bookkeeping, accounting, cost accounting, credit, and collection and statistic. So the chief financial officers looks for sources of capital. The capital needs of a company may be divided into fixed or investment. A capital consisting of land, buildings, and equipment, of working capital for raw materials, salaries, wages, and other operating costs. The volume of business turnover and similar factors affect need for working capital. So the capital pool, savings, and investment. Where does the money come? Where does the money come from? The financing of business enterprise. Savings are generated directly and indirectly by individuals, business enterprise, a variety of institution, governments, and others. So these savings flow into the capital. So um, pool or market, then through the many channels. So kanang the market is a new work of many institution channels, then in processes distinguished by the sources of their funds by the different areas as they cover by different types of loans they make and by the variety buyers of they serve. So financing the non-corporate enterprise is the in the case of um, enterprise in the case of partnership, In the case of the single proprietorship and the partnership, the initial capital comes from the individuals directly interested and possibly through the loans investment that friends through the loans are an investment that friends are willing to make in the business. So in addition to cash, these individuals may contribute the actual loan, buildings, machinery, and materials needed to make up the productive capital of business. Launching a new enterprises through cash and property contribute of individuals personally interested in the venture is one of the oldest forms of business promotion, and it continues to be an important method of financing today. So let's proceed to the initial corporate financing. So it is the corporate enterprise that is most concerned with the problem of capitalization. Commonly employed in the corporate financing are the corporate securities such as stock and bonds. So before the basic financial structures of the enterprise is the total authorized capital, stocks must have to be classified. Stock classification determines the relation of stockholders to the enterprise. So with this, the rights and limitation of those who have an ownership interest is the business can set. So let's proceed to the bond issue. Bond issue are company to promises to repay the loan are backed by a mortgage on the part of all the company's property. So the mortgage takes from the trust agreement which contains all the rights and obligation between the company borrower and the leader bondholders. So the instrument designates a trustee who represents the bondholders, and it defines his power and obligation. So the essential relation between the company and holders is that of the debtor-creditor. While a stockholder is an owner, a bondholder is a creditor. Bonds are differentiated from other loans of corporation in that they partake of the natures and of mass borrowing. A wider group of persons become creditors of the corporation. So, in the event of default in payment interest of principals, the designated trustee in the agreement has the power to take various actions to protect the bondholders. So, let's proceed to the financing day-to-day operation. Once a business is started, the money requirements of the company are continuous for goods, wages, and other expenditures of going concern. Everything a business does result in money coming in or going out and in property being bought or sold. So, masabtan naman to na tong financing day-to-day operation, no? So, let's proceed to the sales department. So, the sales department tries to sell all goods it can. And the purchasing department tried to buy what is needed when it is needed. So, the purchasing department kuno, mo try kuno sila og unsay ilahang kanang need ug anos ani nila manid. Then, the treasurer must pay the bills incurred by the purchasing officers, who in turn must protect the purchase materials. The credit manager effect collection of payment of the goods and the sales departments has sold. So, mo na to no, mo to ang sales department and purchasing department. So, let's proceed to the cash position. There should be enough money available to pay every obligation when it is due. Such money, except for initial capital and subsequent expansion, should come from cash sales and from collection of amounts receivable. So, the cash position of a company is the amount of money on hand or in sight in relation to the total sum of accounts payable and notes payable coming due during the same period. So careful managers re- reaction if frequently in many cases every day. So sorry for the inconvenience no kay putol-putol gyud siya. So let's moving on no. Let's proceed. Although there is no limit to the ways in which money may be spent, there is a definite limit to the resources of money, hence the necessity for control. Control of expenditure does not when the proposal to spend money is made afterward is too late. So the main sources if a cash should always be from sales. All other sources should be regarded temporary and to be restored only when income from sales is the moment insufficient for immediate cash requirements, not at any without careful consideration as to what may be the consequence. Money borrowed must be paid. Capital should not be wasted but conserved. So, og mo borrow jud og money dapat ma-paid jud og unsa to atong gi-borrow. So, let's moving on no. Mo proceed na ta sa financing seasonal business. So, quite a number of business are seasonal in nature. Sorry. A summer hotel, for instance, is a highly seasonal business, and unless it is located in a high area or in a tourist spots for beach resort theory, it is thus no business during the rainy season. So this is a business which has a lively demand during the hot season and little, if any, in the cold months. So there are many industries that are seasonal throughout to the same extent. So the significance of seasonal business to the company treasurer is that during the dull season, the company may not be producing enough business to bring much money. So yet the trained employees have to be retained through the dull season and materials have to purchase. So let's proceed to the different function of banks. So banks have two functions. They act as middleman between savers and investors, that is, between the supply and of and demand for capital, and they supply the principal means of payment in modern communities bank credit. So if the banking system is working properly, the middleman function should bring out continuous equilibrium between the volume of savings and the volume of investment. Financial institution Evans can really facilitate the savings investment processes by performing one or more of the following general functions. So, first is gathering, disseminating, and using information. Second is purchasing, holding, and selling securities. Third is providing diversification and insurance against risk for savers and depositors. Fourth is increasing liquidity to those who part with money and would other claims. And lastly, explain the different kinds of credit. So these are all the different function of banks. So let's proceed to the short-term financing. So what is short-term financing? Traditionally is used for seasonal purposes. For example, to build an inventory, no? So noto siya ang short financing. So trade credit, normal credit forms extended to firms by their suppliers. And next is secured borrowing, like to provide more money to most companies than trade credits. A secured loan involves borrowings against account receivables. So inventory, machinery, equipment, vehicles, construction, buildings, or contract of some type. So such as loans available from banks, commercial finance companies, and a few others financial intermediaries. And the third is secured borrowing. So unsecured short-term loans, lines of credit, and revolving loans. These are called unsecured loan. So only in the sense that they are not tied to a specific asset or group of the assets. So in fact, unsecured credit is secured by the general financial and operating strength of the borrower as evaluated by the leader. Since this inventory and equipment, no company should be able to borrow twice against the same security. So that is a company may be able to get unsecured credit from its bank, so or it may be able to borrow against its assets, but it should be not able to do both. So moto no, let's proceed to the paper and notes. Short-term money is also available through to two name or three name paper of various type. So acceptance financing, most common of such paper, which can be used an example is the banker's acceptance. So to borrow money through this mechanism, the borrower arranges a line of credit with the banker and then issues a series of notes payable in 30 to 180 days. So na siya'y ano no, og mobaro ko og money ani nga mechanism, na siya'y 30 to 1 nga mag notes payable 30 to 180 days. And commercial paper usually used by a large will-run companies. So these consist unsecured promissory notes, broadly similar to this, which forms the basic basis for acceptance financing, except that they are not considered countersigned of accepted by anyone. So captive financing, large companies which sell products against installments, lease or mental payment, which wish to consider establishing their own companies. So, well, such a company will be lending rather than borrowing a captive finance. And company with a good record will be able to obtain highly leveraged borrowing against its own name rather than the of the parent company. So second is intermediate term financing. Depend on a large measure upon prediction of the business, climate, company, corporation, and cash flow. So A is leasing. One of the more popular methods obtaining intermediate financing for long-term financing involves the use of leases. So a lease is an instrument which permits a lease to raise something, equipment, or building, in return for payments which are made regularly over the time to the owner. A lease can be either a finance, not lease, operating lease, true lease, and leverage lease. So, third is long-term financing. The longest term financing is with equity, which occurs when investors turn over cash in return for a part ownership in the company. Evidence of the latter takes the form of a certificate of a stock. Then the ventures, by far the largest volume of long-term fund is made available to companies in the form of term loans, either secured or unsecured. So let's proceed to the bonds. So bonds, we have a government financing. Can take the form of direct governmental involvement, or there can be government programs. So to facilitate borrowings in other ways, such as by providing governments subsidize or supervise insurance programs. So fifth is off-bank financing. Refers to financing which does not appear on a bank sheet. So, for example, no, a relative strong corporation maybe guarantee the in-depth deadness of a subsidiary or a weaker company with whom it has a business relationship. So the debt appears on the balance sheet of the company for which the guarantee is used, but the guarantee is not recorded in the balance sheet of issuing corporation. So second is petty cash. Although the company usually uses checks in paying bills and most of other items, it is necessary occasionally to make small payment by cash. So for this purpose, a certain money is entrusted to the cashier sufficient to the take care of ordinary cash requirements. So this money is called petty cash fund. So the cashier or some other company's officials may be authorized to make payments from the fund. So all payment must be supported by petty cash voucher. So naa sila petty cash voucher. So the cashier or the authorized officer is responsible to the treasurer for the safety and correct use of the petty cash fund with supporting voucher. Next is paying for good purchase. When the company buy goods from others, it receives a bill or invoice for the goods purchased. Maintaining bank balances. Care must be taken to the guarantee only that the bank account is not overdrawn, but that other requirements are also met. And the handling of checking accounts by bank involve considerable expense on the part of the bank. To offset part of these expenses, the two methods commonly used are the minimum balance requirement and the measured charge. So naa sila duha ka methods nga commonly used, the minimum balance requirement and the measured charge. So estimating cash requirement. So there are four estimating cash requirement, no? First is for employee payroll. Second is for utility service. And third is current purchases. And fourth is for non-routine expenditures. So when we say for employee payroll, this is one of the first routine expenditure of the company. Payrolls have to meet every week or every 15th or end of the month. Payday comes regularly, and the employees workers are to be paid without delay. So payrolls may be in the three forms, namely the regularly salary list and the hourly wage and the service piece rate. And next is for utility service. So when we say for utility service is the usual utility services, telephone, telegraph, light, power, and billed and paid monthly. So this cash requirement can be more or less be routinely predetermined. And for current purchases is next are the invoice purchases. So the company commitment, as the commitments are made, they are entered a commitment sheet which shows the treasurer at all times how much money is to be paid out and when. The sheet must be always consulted before the additional commitments are approved, since budget approval is considered as a sufficient warrant for expenditure. So let's proceed to the budget. So well-managed business are operated under a budget plan by which an estimate of expected income and expenditure of the company is drawn up in detail, showing where the money is coming from and where it will be go. Some concerns prepare the budget in detail so that each department head and branch manager knows exactly for which part of the income and expenditure of the company he will be responsible during a company year. So actual result are checked with the budget, which thus serves as a guide to the profitable operation of the business. So kanang nasa sabotable naman siguro po na ang the budget no kay karon jud nga panahon na is magnin na jud tag budget. So the budget is a statement of objective in the terms of specification. It sets goals to be attained in sales, expense reduction, manufacturing profits, and so on. So these goals, however, do not serve their maximum purpose unless they are supported by carefully detailed plans and programs which indicate sources of action that will make it possible to attain the figures presented in the budget. Next is rather, it is a plan and guide for carrying out a plan. So, purposes of budget. Stated briefly, the purposes of budget are planning. So, first jud ang planning. So, planning, plano, a systematic and unified plan of activities for designated areas of operation. So second is control. Unsaon nato pag-control ang atong budget. A standard of measurement of result against which variation from previous plans become evident. Then lastly is coordination. Activities become a part of a plan for enterprise as a whole. Democratic processes basic to the construction and operation of a budget tend to bring understanding and unification department and personnel. So let's proceed to the protecting the securities of the company. So protection of the company's property is another function of the treasurer. Managing the real estate of the company, money and securities are not the only properties of the company that the treasurer must protect. So pay taxes when due. Payment of taxes due on the company's property should not escape the attention of the treasurer. As at a stated time each year, the company is billed for local taxes on its property. So bills for collection may be lost in the mails or missent, and non-receipt of a bill is no excuse for not paying it. So see that rent are collected. So the collection of rents from tenants to a company-owned real estate requires a good follow-up system for getting the money when due. So some tenants are up to date in the payment of rent. So however, there are usually some of delay the payment for one reason for another. So every experienced credit manager knows that the longer a debt remains unpaid, leasing company owned by property. So leasing company owned is another responsibility of the treasurer. Then maintenance of property. When repairs are necessary, they should be made promptly. Then insurance protection. Adequate insurance on the properties of companies and other responsibility of the treasurer. Insurance protection is not incidental to the operation of business. It may be a vital. So, in carrying insurance for the company's properties, the following consideration shall be taken. So, first is comes a survey of the risk that the company faces. So second is a survey of the possibility of reducing this risk by decreasing the fire or accident hazard. Third is comes from the analysis of the insurance available. Fourth is the procuring policies that cover the risk against which protection is desired. And lastly is by no means least, it is the renewal of insurance policies before their expiration leaves of the company unattractive. So property insurance may be include fire, earthquake, flood, or their theft insurance. Then uses of credit information in the Philippines. So our financial system now operates on the basis of huge amounts of information concerning large and medium scale business units, governmental units, domestic and foreign, and many other institutions that are actual or potential in the financial market. So these are all the information sources of financing opportunities. So short-term borrowing, most important sort, and possibly on loans of the 10 years in the companies of bankers. So there are five information sources. So second is useful up-to-date of the information, and a long-term borrowing may be obtained from the corporate finance department of any money center, bank, or a similar department in the office of major regional. And then in the advice on the placement of equities available from members of the underwriting fraternity. Fourth is the area of background reading. Excellent practical and occasional papers are disseminated by leading banks and underwriters. Fifth is explain fully the difference between the stocks and bonds and reasons why one of not is other issue and how their issue is regulated. So an important factor which could favor the flotation of bonds rather than the insurance of stocks to raise capital in the high corporate income tax structure, interest payments, unbundled indebtedness, and deductible as expenses, and thus reducing taxable income while dividends are considered distribution of profits. However, the principal danger of the debt financing is that the interest must be paid even in years or depressed business, whereas dividends on stock can be escaped. So, thank you for watching my report, ma'am. And this is Kathy May Pasos Lagapa. Thank you for listening. God bless.